I would like to call the City of Twinsburg Caucus meeting for February 9th, 2021 to order. It is 7 p.m. The meeting is being held hybrid with council in person and public participation via Zoom due to the current COVID-19 statewide guidelines. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Do we have any presentations this evening?
There are none.
At this time, are there any items for discussion?
There are none.
Do we have any audience participation?
Yes, we have one. We have Bob Hughes.
He's not on.
Ms. McFerrin, do you want to move on and then circle back to audience participation?
Oh, great idea. Okay, pending legislation. Ordinance 07-2021. This is the signed ordinance, which will be on a second reading tonight. Are there any questions?
I have a couple.
Okay. Mr. Fury?
Mr. Maestros, there were some questions about what this did for the temporary signs versus what we did now. And also, how does it address people that put up billboards for temporary signs?
Billboard
Or
temporary?
large, say, 8x8 signs?
For example, political signs?
Sure.
Okay. It allows, what we have is a standard size for temporary signs that you can put up without coming and getting a
Which are
permit.
6 square feet, 2x3?
Or 6 square feet. If you want to exceed that, you can do that, but if you do that, say you put for a 4x8 plywood sign up, there are additional requirements to do that. For example, you have to have it further off your side yard setback lines, away from your neighbor's property, if you're going to put a sign up that size. In addition, you have to go to the building department and get approval. It won't be denied, but you have to get approval so we can verify when we get calls that my neighbor has a sign, a 4x8 sign up, the building department can verify that it's been approved. So we're not restricting the size, we're allowing it, but we're just restricting how high it can be, how far it has to be from the right of way, and how far it has to be from the neighbor's house.
Was there a fee to get a permit for that, or do you not need a permit?
I do not believe you need a fee for that, for a temporary sign of that nature. If it's a permanent sign that exceeds it, then you would need a fee.
How do you tell the difference between a permanent sign and a temporary sign? If I put 4x4s in the ground, is that a temporary sign or a permanent sign?
Well, the signs you're allowed to have in your on your residential property would be temporary signs.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Any other questions? Moving on to Resolution 10-2021. This resolution is done each quarter to acknowledge receipt and review of monthly financial statements. Resolution 10-21 is for October through December 2020. Are there any questions?
No.
Ordinance 11-2021. This is to award the bid for the fitness center doors to Apex Construction. The total project is $47,900. $29,850 is from grants, and $18,050 is the city's portion. Are there any questions?
Yeah, and I don't know a whole lot about doors, so I would just like to thank Mr. Barr. I know that we were discussing this. This is his kind of wheelhouse, and he said that this was, a good price for what we're getting. So I appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Yeah, especially considering the grant money for $18,000, we couldn't touch this project without some of the CARES Act money. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Resolution 12-2021. This is declaring February Heart Month. Ordinance 13-2021. This is the first reading to approve items for the city auction. The main item is a 1994 fire engine that is no longer needed. The new engine should be ready in April or May. There may be additions to this ordinance as we go through the reading. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Maestros, at one point, I know that there was a potential addition to this. Has there been anything else at this point?
We do have verbal commitment that we're gonna have some additions to this, both, some items that we have downstairs, both, the police department and service department.
Okay.
For example, the council chairs that were removed, we're gonna put those on, in addition to some other items. So the hope is 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have, that new, attachment with those additional items, and maybe if that's it, we can move forward as an emergency when we get those items sold.
Thank you, sir.
Council, does anyone have any miscellaneous items to discuss?
I just have one real quick. I got an email yesterday evening from a resident on 91. I believe he CC'd everybody here, and he was concerned about the potential, the project that was in, I believe, the mayor's report that was on hold about a lane widening at 91. And I don't think that is a project that is on our radar at this point. I had a conversation with the mayor, and again, I just wanted to bring it up. I know Mr. Meyer, went out of his way to send us an email, and so I just wanted to kind of bring it up and respond to it, that's all.
Yeah, something, I actually brought that up to Amy. We had a meeting this morning and talked about a couple of different things, and that was one of them. And that particular project, and a lot of the projects we look at funding, and those fundings, especially with AMATs and other grants, have award periods that are extended into the future. So we were looking at a couple different projects and how they were timed out. And I saw that email and mentioned it to her that really that's, from a priority standpoint, is nothing that's really on our radar right now.
All right, thank you.
All right. I have two items. One is the signs with the ARB. Okay, when I sat on ARB for a couple different times as the council representative, and when a business would come in or a new business would change, we had some strict sign rules and regulations about that they were aesthetically the same with the rest of the signs in the rest of the strip center, or wherever they were going. So we've got this little center down on Ravenna Road as you're coming into Twinsburg, corner of Shepherd and Ravenna Road. Every sign on that little strip center there, I think that's a cream colored with
The
red letters.
drive-thrus?
Okay.
Just a drive-through?
There's a drive-through beverage store there, there's a pizza shop there, there's a beauty shop, barber shop, there's a few things in there. So now we've got a new business in there, and all of a sudden they have, everything's the same, except this one has a black sign with white lettering, okay? And they just opened recently, maybe a month and a half. So I called and I checked with Pete to see what was going on. He says he didn't know anything about it. So he looked in the file, doesn't see that, I guess they ever went to ARB. Because I couldn't believe that's what happened to ARB. They were very staunch on that, I remember at one time, that they all had to be the same. So all of a sudden, he says, well, I don't see that they ever went to the ARB. Maybe they didn't apply, they just put the sign up. I said, well, then it's not their issue, but what do we do from here? Well, as far as I know, I haven't read anything back and nothing's happened with it. Have we changed our stand on that? That now they could start to have every color sign. It's just not very aesthetically pleasing when you're coming in. I mean, it's only one, but if they did it, then the next guy's gonna do it, and it's just gonna, we're gonna have a sign that
Is it
look like
a
a
permanent
clown
sign or a temporary sign?
No, it's a permanent sign. They had a permanent sign put on top of their store.
That might cost them.
Right.
Well, I would think that we've got to go and tell them that they need to apply and probably change their sign, or at least go to the ARB and talk to them
Or
folks.
the BZA afterwards, so, but I
So-
just don't.
If we could look into that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can take care of it.
Okay. That's one thing. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, I know it's winter yet, but pretty soon we're going to be into the summertime. Now, I don't know if you saw in the news, but the city of Lyndhurst is having problems now with food trucks. And we talked about this last year. We had first we had one in the Masaras Plaza, then it grew to two, and then they had the big flags up, and then they were just selling one thing, and then it turned out to be hot dogs and this and that, and all kinds of stuff. And I haven't been a real proponent of that to begin with. Not that I don't like food trucks, because I do like food trucks. But what I have a problem with is we have no regulation on these things. And I know probably most of you aren't down on Ravenna Road, but I am, and I'm sure Daisy is.
Yeah.
And we have to see these things. And so I would just like to see them regulated, because You know, and what really bothers me about it is that we've got food trucks sitting in this plaza and we've got empty storefronts there.
Right.
Well, if you could bring a little trailer there and put up your business, why should I rent that out? And, you know, next thing I could see it going on in maybe Town Center by Giant Eagle. I could see it going on and, you know, it might even go up in your neighborhoods by, you know, I don't know, Heinens or somewhere up there. I mean, they're just not, I think we need to have a regulation on them. And even if it's, you know, even if it's not prohibiting them, if we can't do that, make it for a time period. You know, it's got to stop, it's got to end, but it can't be all summer long. I don't know, I don't think they look very good if they're going to start to pop up in all our neighborhoods, and I'm hoping that they don't. We've only had 2 that I'm aware of. I hate to see that grow and even have more in the Masaras Plaza. You know, I'm doing my best to make sure that that plaza stays up to standards because it's had its problems between the ownership changes, no lights in the parking lot, you know, no lights under the overhangs. You know, the store people complained to me that it's dark there. We finally got, and it took only to change the timers to get some lights on in that parking lot early in the morning because Dollar General opens up. She's got to be there very early in the morning in order to get her stock and stuff, whatever she has. And she's done a great job with that store. Actually, she's a resident, and she's the manager of it. She's done a great job on the inside. As you know, we've had problems with them. I think our fire department is almost going to close them down at one time, but that's some of her complaint. The trash cans all along there have just been overflowing all the time. I've constantly been on that. I'm doing the best I can to keep that plaza from becoming a blighted area in my ward, okay? And I would like to see, and then those food trucks just set me over the top. So I'd like to see some regulations, something if we can. I think I talked to you already, Mr. Mayshow.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I believe we had a conversation.
Yeah,
too.
we actually have a framework of some regulations that we were working on. We kind of got sidetracked off it and got focused on the sign ordinance, but this is something that has not completely left our radar. So we were looking at trying to find a location in the city where they would be permitted and they would have to be, you know, that there'd be a certain number they could rotate in and out where, you know, they could be, you know, isolated to a certain area. So everyone knows this is the only place in the city that food trucks are going to be allowed. And I don't know, I mean, they could pop up anywhere. I think some of your other businesses and property owners, like Giant Eagle, Heineken, probably a very difficult time of approving anything like that. The Sarah's Plaza was a little different situation when they allowed it, and especially where the old rush hour was, because they had literally no tenants, and I think the guy was paying some kind of rent to set up in that parking lot. But we'll follow up on that and make sure we try to get something in front of council here soon.
I know we had a conversation about, I think it was the city of Lakewood. They had some property that which they were fortunate to have it.
Right.
And they rent the spots out to these food trucks. So they're making money off of it. And it's all in an organized area. They got picnic tables there and everything so people can come there. They have parking, they can go get whatever, and they can even sit there if they wanted to. And even though we may not have that luxury to be able to segregate a place that maybe the city owns, that we can make some money off of it.
Designate Church Street.
Well, yeah, but we don't, I don't know if we'd be able to close that off. And we couldn't collect money on it, I'm sure. I don't think we could collect rent on that. You go over by Gander Mountain, by the college, or Gander Mountain, but you're really off the beaten path in there. But, you know, so something like that.
And that's what we're
There's a
looking
vacant
at,
plaza.
is a place where we could host them. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, we are looking for a place where we could host them that,
Okay.
you know, because they do also look at the logistics of where they're at and the traffic flow.
Of course,
The
yeah.
closest to, close to the the interchange and those kind of things. So we'll look and see if we can find a location, because that would be the ideal spot, to have something that could be almost a year-round thing. If they wanted to be there, they paid and we're
Right.
permitted to go there.
Scott, to your point, I think we had the farmer's market used to be down in the square, and then I think it moved back there to behind, like Brewster's.
Behind
And
Brewster's.
it died.
Yeah.
And
I
so it's just.
There's not, you're right, I mean,
Yeah,
not the.
so, yeah, I think that's really important where they're at.
Sure.
Is it the property owner's responsibility to clear the trash out of the bins?
Yes, they should have a maintenance company, and they do have a maintenance company. I don't know that they come enough, because I've had complaints that the garbage is overflowing. I've had people come to shop there. I'd be in that plaza, and they'd stop me, they go, "You're our councilman, right?" they go, look at this place, it's a mess, and I can't disagree with them. So I do the best that I can to keep that place up.
So who's in charge of following them up to make sure that that they're keeping up? Is it building
But the owner
department?
was out
Yeah,
of state.
And that's something that's kind of constantly on their radar. I mean, that's been a chronic issue with the trash there. I mean, there was multiple.
And I'm not
issues.
blaming the building department, 'cause
Yeah.
when I brought to
Yeah.
attention, they took care of it.
Right.
There's been multiple issues that, and I think a lot of them have been corrected. I think a lot of them are, I think the plaza's doing better than it was, but there are still issues with that trash and different things over there.
Is there any deterrent that can be used? A fine,
Fines?
a letter,
Yeah, they find them if they don't.
We're talking about trash now, or the?
trash.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a matter of following up with the building department, they send them a notice of violation if they're in violation, or nudge them along.
Is it enough to motivate people to fix it, or is it enough that they?
Generally, I mean, they'll generally send a first notification and follow up with another before any action is taken necessarily.
I think this owner now is pretty new there at the plaza. I think they haven't been there very long. So they may be trying, I just don't want to see it go down the tubes again. And now we've got El Campesino's empty, and they have that fence there that goes into their patio. And before you know it, that fence is going to be falling apart. I hate to see that happen. So that's all. I just wanted to shoot that out there.
They close?
Thanks.
I didn't know that.
Well, I have something as well, because it's been brought up that, and we've had discussion about this before, about the big mound at the Glen Eagles Golf Course that blocks the view of the clubhouse and the restaurant. And I had a little brief conversation with the mayor, and if anybody else had any comments, and I did verify development that was there after. the clubhouse.
After? Okay.
I don't feel strongly that we should do something about it. Does anybody else have any comments?
Isn't that just a bulldozer and move some dirt and replant some grass, or, I mean, how big of a deal is it?
Yeah, I think there's some of the dirt that, in my opinion, I don't know for sure, but when they were building that place, they had extra dirt, and they decided to make that mound. And I said that to the mayor a long time ago when we
Yeah,
were running a
talk about this.
restaurant. I thought that was really a hindrance because you cannot see that building from, if you're coming from the roundabout. And then all of a sudden I saw Joanne brought it up too, and, you know, I said that a while ago, but.
Is that on the radar already we talked about already moving that?
I mean, there's been no real request from, I mean, of course, our golf side, I don't know that it makes a huge difference on the golf side, but we haven't received any requests from the Brentwood owners regarding that. So I think, I think there's a couple of things that could help. I mean, we did get approval at one point to do an additional sign up at Roundabout on 91. That's probably great work. Notoriety, for that particular. But I mean, it is a project. I mean, it's probably a bigger project than what we think. And I don't know what's buried in there, but I mean, we can always look at it and probably consult with Brentwood because it's going to create, a construction site for a period of time to probably do that. So, but it's something. I mean, it can be done. I mean, you're talking about taking dirt out and redoing landscaping, but it's something that I guess if council feels adamant enough about it for their own sake, but I have not received any real requests from Parkwood regarding it. So I guess it depends on what you guys want to try to
Well,
pursue.
I think not only that, but I mean, we built a really nice building over there, and you truly can't see it. You just can't see it when you're coming from the rock. You don't see the beauty of that building. You don't see anything. And sometimes when people are driving by and they see a full parking lot, that tells them something's going on there, whether it's golf or whether it's the restaurant. But I can't even see the cars parked in there. And just you get a little peek from where you pull in the driveway, but after that you don't see nothing until you're past it. So, I just think that it would be, I don't know, I thought it would be helpful. Even if you didn't take it all the way down, lower it so you could see it there a little bit, or partially take it down.
Although I agree with Mr. Scafidi in principle, I guess I'd have to see what the number would be before I could support any kind of landscaping expenditure at the golf course at this time.
I imagine that is something our service department.
And that's a very different conversation, in my opinion.
Because I know we have the equipment.
Right,
Yeah,
sure.
our service department can, from an expertise standpoint and equipment standpoint, definitely handle it.
Absolutely.
I'd be scared to mention that to them right now, being kind of 4 guys short and running crazy, but I can definitely talk with them about, you know, as we get into some of the warmer months, and we start building up our seasonal staff, you know, to be able to have, essentially, if you guys take a look at that, see what can be done.
Mrs. Struffer, it's in your ward. Do you have any feedback from your ward?
My residents? No one said anything. I mean, I think it was done, when it was first done, I heard it, everybody replies.
But do you think they've had,
But,
at least not having the landscaping lower?
yeah, nobody who lives well on that side, they don't really, there aren't any homes.
The only thing that I'll add, I agree that you can't see it. I would agree with Mr. Barr, though, I'm not excited about spending any money over there right now. I will say, I have a hard time at night, especially reading the sign. I don't know if it's the way the lights are on it, I can't read it. So, and I don't think it's because I'm not wearing my glasses.
I agree.
I agree. I agree.
But
That's gonna be.
Well, that's something that's been discussed before, so.
I can look at it. We can get some numbers on what it.
yeah, I think it's probably just, you know, I'm not suggesting we need a new sign, it's because it's a beautiful sign, it's just, I think it's the way it's
a
lit.
lighting issue.
Yeah.
Over there, yeah.
I'm surprised they are reading pick up on that.
It's hard for ARB to, I mean, I think it's more of the components of that sign being metal and the reflective part of that metal
Yeah.
and the way the sign, the light hits it, I think is causing that glare when you drive by it.
Is there any other items for discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah.
I just want to get council up to date a little bit on, so doing a lot of discussion and talking with both engineering and the service department regarding the crosswalks on Liberty. And so part of the discussion was what can we do to, you know, safely get people across at those particular intersections. There's a couple options we're looking at. One of them I brought up was we have hawk signals already. We can look at hawk signals. As we started researching and diving into that, there's going to be pretty significant cost, and the fact that there's probably going to be some type of traffic engineer work, as well as it's probably something that's not warranted, which doesn't completely stop us from doing it, but there are regulations, whereas like if we're looking at Post Road and we're looking at Neely Lane going across, we can't go on those crosswalks where they're at. We have to go 100 feet away from that intersection. So if we put a hawk signal 100 feet down Liberty, is it actually going to be used, or are people just going to continue to cross? So I think there's some things to consider. I mean, numbers I'm hearing are in the 75,000 plus to do the hawk signals. So there's a couple of options that we're looking at now that we're going to get some prices on that have lit pedestrian signs that, or they push a button, it lights up, and then there's actually embedded in the road a series of lights that would come on. So when a car's coming down the road, they would see the light. So it's not quite the hawk signal where it's stopping traffic and warrants an engineering study and a warrant and all that. But, you know, typically if someone's driving down the road and they see lights in the road, they're gonna start slowing down. So we're looking at a couple different options and getting some pricing, but I just wanted to let you know that that's being worked on. And the hawk signal has turned out to be a much bigger animal than what we kind of, you know, was planning. You know, in my mind, we just put a pad and some electricity and put it up, and there's a lot more to it than that, so.
So what are we doing? We've had those hawk signals for a while. We doing anything with them at all?
We have, right now, no purpose for
They're
them.
in waiting.
Did we sell them?
I guess we could auction.
Can we put them on the bid list?
Yeah, put them on the bid list. We can't use them.
We should sit on, I know how much they cost.
I know, that's why I can't believe we weren't
Yeah.
on news for them.
Yeah, it's an interesting intersection that would warrant something like that. Like when you look at Hawks Center, when you look at the data, they're looking at a minimum of 20 crossings per hour, which that's a lot of, it's a good number of crossings, and I know we don't have that at both of those. You might get 20 crossings between, maybe 4:30 and 7 on a summer night, but the rest of the day is pretty quiet, so I don't know. We're looking at a bunch of different options, and I think there's some things that, in my mind, when I first started talking to Davey and Chris, is looking at, they were gonna put up just solar-powered pedestrian signs that were like lit around the edge, and I'm like, that's not good enough for me. I just think that that'll just get ignored. So now we're looking at stuff that has to be activated, that comes on, that shows something in the road, so it's more of a presence out there for people that are crossing the street. So once I get more numbers and can fine tune it, I'll keep council updated as to what we're discovering.
I know that's a big concern, though. That is.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of been on our radar for a couple of years now, and we just need to,
Yeah.
we need to do something, we just need to make sure we do something that's gonna create a safer path. But again, I think if we start pushing hawk signals 100 feet away from the intersection, I think people aren't gonna walk down to the hawk signal and cross, they're gonna just keep crossing the way they've been crossing.
I agree.
So I'd like to create something that's more visible and safer, that illuminates the path that they're on, that they're currently used to taking.
I'd like to really try to stay on top of this one, though, because it has been a number of years that we've been talking about that, post road, and it sort of gets away from us, something else comes up, it feels like that's a conversation for a number of
Yeah, no,
concerns.
we're talking to vendors and all, in everyone right now, so
Thank you,
it'll happen.
thank you.
I have one question about that, and I don't understand, is that when we had the hawk signals up, they were right in the intersection at the roundabout. They were on those right there at the crosswalk. So how come if we move them to Liberty, they gotta be 100 feet away from the crosswalk?
I'm just following engineering.
Well, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
maybe throw that out to them.
No, I thought of the same thing.
I don't understand.
I think it's a visibility standpoint, so when cars are, like, say cars are coming down post and you have a hawk signal that's 10 feet off, there's nothing really alarming them to stop.
No approach to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're in a roundabout, there's visibility all around and you're driving underneath those, whereas you wouldn't drive underneath those until you turn right to go down that street. So I think if they want to give enough stop distance for someone to turn, see that hawk signal and be able to stop. So it's some of the, because I had the same question as you, is we had these right in the middle, but I think the way that roundabouts are designed and configured, that there's still the visibility there for someone coming in and out of the intersection.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, the Caucus meeting is now adjourned.
Ms. Fair, can we circle back to audience participation?
Oh, back to us.
Mark, can you confirm that Mr. Hughes is on?
He is not on.
He is not, okay, he also submitted a request a few minutes ago for the council meeting, so he. Okay, thank you, so none? There is none then.
Then we will adjourn the Caucus meeting at 7.